long meadows of beautiful grass swaying in the wind changed to thick forest as the heroes neared their destination. After hours of walking, going around the town entirely despite Alabaster's insistence on mischief, the duo eventually found their way to the mountain they believed to hold the family tomb. The heroes made quick note of the notable damage to the taller trees from a large creature flying low over time. As the two scaled the mountainside in search, they found more and more bodies littering the forest floor. Some victims of circumstance who had the misfortune of encountering a hungry dragon, and others decrepit corpses that should have been buried deep within the ground. As they passed the bodies, Alabaster prayed for each of them as he held his holy shield in front of him. The shield was a medium-sized targe with thorns sticking out on four sides and the engraving of a skeleton forearm holding a golden scale in the center, the symbol of the deity Kelemvor. Vaius would often notice when faced with undead foes, Alabaster would act visibly upset. It obviously wasn't any sort of expression from his own undead skeletal face, but his body language suggesting he was lost in his own thoughts. The duo ascended the grueling mountainside, soon reaching a clearing in the mist-filled forest that revealed a small, gated graveyard. As the heroes began venturing in, Alabaster became overwhelmed by the evil presence the site exuded.
This is absolutely the place, Vaius, and it would appear we have much work to do to quell this threat,
Alabaster announced as he walked forward with his blade and shield at the ready.
Do what you must, Alabaster. I'm only here to make sure our contract is completed to the fullest extent.
Vaius, as calmly his Daemon voice could, replied as he nodded towards a tomb entrance that had been damaged by a previous avalanche. Pillars and a broken rocky pathway led the heroes to a stone wall engraved with elvish writing, where a large caved-in hole seemed to swallow the surrounding fog.
It's as the villager said. The tomb has collapsed into the natural caverns of the mountain. Could very well have been what woke the dragon to start its rampage.
Vaius whispered back to Alabaster. Placing one outstretched blue hand atop a nearby rock formation for balance, Vaius hopped down from the cavernous precipice into the darker chamber below. His yellow eyes, quickly surveying the shadowed surroundings, betrayed his fiendish heritage.
I'm coming down now, Vaius, whether you think it's safe or not. If you're frightened, you can stand behind me,
quipped Alabaster, playing to the two's ongoing rivalry.
I was making sure it was safe, Alabaster. I see nothing to fear.
With that, the armored knight shifted his weight from the precipice above and landed next to Vaius with an impossibly loud clanging of armor against stone. The calamity echoed throughout the cavern chambers, reflecting the impressive size of this underground labyrinth.
Well, if we were surprising anyone, we ain't now. Thank you for that, Alabaster.
Alabaster shifted his armor to rest squarely on his skeletal frame, adjusted his helmet, and placed a hand upon the pommel of his sheathed blade.
Good and well. May all creatures, vile and foul, that would dwell in this place know that we are here.
Alabaster shouted further into the chamber, seemingly invigorated by the promise of adventure ahead. Shall we? The knight gestured further into the cavern, toward a sloped path of stone passing through rows of stalagmites. Vaius nodded silently. The two adventurers continued, their footsteps echoing throughout the surrounding cavernous chambers. Vaius, with his brow furrowed, continuously surveyed the area for any signs of immediate danger. Before long, the two had come to the end of the stone path, where a small grotto-like chamber revealed a wall ripe with chunks of gem-riddled ore. Alabaster nudged Vaius with an elbow, pointing to the wall rich in crystal deposits.
Look there, Vaius.
Just as we thought. It would seem this area has a great resource of gems a dragon would love. Perhaps the sellswords would be interested in development in the area after dealing with the infestation.
Not a bad idea, Alabaster. We'll report this once we're back.
On the eastern wall of the chamber, rushing water streamed down over the deposits of ore and down into a large hole in the cavernous floor. Seeing no other way forward, the two adventurers turned their attention to determining where this water ran to. Perhaps we should follow the stream down. Let's have a look. Alabaster kneeled by the hole where the water poured into, and peering through the wake of the small waterfall there, saw a vast chamber below partially filled with water. Bingo, friend. Shall we?
Aye.
Vaius replied, moving now towards Alabaster and the hole. Alabaster hung his feet over the edge of the hole, looked down once more at the body of water he would be landing in, and pushed off from the stone edge, plunging into the crystal clear lake below him. With a loud splash, he sank quickly to the cavern floor, about 20 feet of water above him. His greaves stirred the sediment, turning the water around him murky and opaque. Vaius bent down by the edge of the hole and, fixing an eye on Alabaster below him, jumped down. A second loud splash echoed throughout the room, and as Vaius swam to get his head back above the water, Alabaster was alarmed by a sudden movement in the chamber ahead. As his friend fell into the water with him, Alabaster had already begun walking up the cavern floor through the depths, up the embankment. Near the back of the wall of the chamber, a great purple beast had turned to face the travelers, alerted by their careless entrance here. Alabaster immediately grabbed Vaius' ankle, and before the tiefling could surface to breathe, pulled him to the bottom of the pool and pointed ominously to the creature's direction. The two had been traveling together long enough now that even this vague warning of danger was sufficient. The two readied their weapons and slowly moved up the embankment before emerging in the shallows, prepared to fight whatever monster called this place its home. But where Alabaster had first glimpsed the movement of the beast, there was nothing but the unadorned cavern wall. A moment of confusion passed before an ear-splitting roar erupted from right behind the two. They turned in anticipation, Alabaster with shield raised and Vaius poised to strike, seeing a large purple worm perched atop a rocky outcropping that overlooked the water and the chamber before it. The dragon drew its breath for a brief reprieve before bellowing out another ear-shattering roar that shook the smaller rocks from the ceiling above them.
You even rinsed and cleaned yourselves for me. You will make for a quick snack first, night.
The worm screeched, rearing back its serpent-like head before lashing out at Alabaster. With a deft hop backwards and a skilled swing of his arm, Alabaster flung his shield with impressive force, smashing into the worm's open jaws. The shield flew back to Alabaster's outstretched arm just as the dragon tried to snap its jaws shut. Alabaster pointed his fine blade towards the creature in challenge.
You'll have to be much quicker than that if you hope to eat either myself or my friend here,
Alabaster remarked. With a quick flourish, the knight rushed forward towards the dragon over a rocky bridge to the worm's perch. Alabaster engaged the purple worm, keeping himself well shielded from its flailing claws and snapping maw. Vaius, only now finishing his arcane mutterings and whispering, erupted in energy as his form became blurred by incredible speed. Shortly thereafter, his stature grew to be some 12 feet tall, and his once large greatsword could now only be described as monstrous. The spellsword rushed to aid his ally, his left hand enchanting his blade to strike true. As he reached Alabaster's side, the dragon had sank its left foreclaw deep into Alabaster's pauldron, a wound which might have bloodied a normal knight. Vaius brought his sword down upon the dragon's arm with great weight, the blow erupting in arcane energy. The dragon reeled in pain, its screeching filling the cavern with dissonant echoes. Alabaster reared back hard, and with a tremendous shield dash, knocked the worm onto its side. He jerked himself away from the dragon, dislodging the claw from his armor before launching his own assault with his fine blade. Using a series of precise, dexterous attacks, Alabaster kept the beast occupied as Vaius, now an enlarged fiend, repeatedly cleaved the creature in a blinding combination of spell strikes. One last draconic speech filled the cavern as the two heroes successfully felled the beast. The purple worm's now lifeless body lay in a heap atop the rocky perch, its blood running into the clear water below. I trust you're fine then. Alabaster looked to Vaius as he returned to his normal size and speed.
I am unarmed. Thank you for warning me back there. I didn't see the worm in the far corner,
Vaius replied. If you are well, let's continue. Where there are dragons, there is treasure, Vaius.
Aye, friend,
Vaius replied, following Alabaster now back across the rocky bridge towards the large open cavern chamber.
Night and Daemon.